Today I'm covering a really important topic for anyone contributing to a workplace pension, and that's lifestyling. I'll explain exactly what it is, go through a case study of the impact it can have, and why it's bad for most people. Hi, welcome back. It's wonderful to have your company again. If we haven't met, my name is Dianne, and I am a financial coach who is qualified in advanced financial advice, and I support people to achieve their money and life goals. Lifestyling is an investment strategy used by many UK workplace pension schemes. It's usually the default plan that your money will be invested in for you. It's designed to automatically reduce the risk level of your investments over time, investing in higher risk investments when you are younger and gradually de-risking as you approach your target retirement age. The goal of lifestyling is to protect your pension as you approach your target retirement age. The chances are that your money is in your pension platform provider's default fund because according to the Pension and Lifetime Savings Association, over 90% of workplace pensions are in their provider's default. The main reason why lifestyling is bad for most people, why the default is wrong, is because these strategies were designed in an era where the vast majority of people chose to buy an annuity with their money when they reached their retirement age. Data from the Financial Conduct Authority tells us that over 850,000 workplace pensions were accessed for the first time in 2023. And compare this with just over 82,000 annuities purchased. Now, the data tells us the number of plans that were accessed for the first time rather than the number of people that access their plans for the first time, because lots of people have more than one pension plan, of course. And the data also doesn't tell us whether or not those people who purchased an annuity used all or just part of their pension with which to buy that annuity. But nevertheless, we can conclude from this data that the vast majority of people choose not to buy an annuity with their workplace pension scheme. So given that that's the case, isn't it time that lifestyling was completely abolished? But then, if it is abolished, what should it be replaced with, and what should people choose to do with their pensions investments instead? Let's go through the impact that lifestyling has on your pension using a case study. Lifestyling case study. Mark is 66 years old. He is divorced, currently single, and has one adult son. He retired 5 years ago when he was 61. He had an old defined benefit pension from a previous employer that he chose to take slightly earlier than the normal retirement date of 65 for a slightly reduced annual income. He also owns a rental property mortgage free. His annual income breakdown is £5,400 rental income, £7,800 from his defined benefit pension, and £11,502 from the state pension, giving him a total of £24,702 gross. He pays tax of £2,426, giving him a net annual income of £22,275 or £1,856 per month. This is plenty to give Mark the retirement lifestyle that he was hoping for. It's enough for him to live well. He's a member of his local cycling group. He goes out with them at least twice a week. It gives him an active social life and also keeps him fit and healthy in his retirement. He has fairly modest holidays in Europe about twice a year. He doesn't go further afield than that. And he doesn't really like to eat out. He's a good cook. He prefers to cook at home for himself. He also likes to host his friends for little dinner parties. In addition to these sources of income, Mark also has a defined contribution workplace pension that he had with the employer he was with when he retired. And he has left this completely untouched since he stopped working 5 years ago. And he was paying into that scheme for 14 years. And throughout that entire time, he paid no attention to that scheme. He simply left it up to his employer and the workplace pension provider to invest his money in their default. And he similarly left the pension completely untouched since he retired, and at the time he retired it was worth £185,000. And his rationale for leaving that workplace pension untouched was that he would bequeath the whole amount to his son, given that he has the other sources of income that are more than enough to give him the retirement lifestyle that he wants. And that rationale was sound at the time, because workplace pensions were outside of Mark's estate for the purposes of inheritance tax. However, this all changed in October 2024, and his workplace pension is now subject to inheritance tax. The details are outside of the scope for this particular video. However, as a result of these recent changes, a lot of people are rethinking their retirement plans in terms of their inheritance tax planning as a result. But back to the specific subject of this video, which is the impact that the lifestyling default has had on Mark over the past 5 years. Let's look at the basics of lifestyling and let's look at the specific impact that it's had on Mark. Lifestyling in practice. Mark's workplace pension provider is Willis Towers Watson, or LifeSight by WTW. And with this provider, if you don't specifically choose your investments, you are placed in the medium risk lifestyling plan default, and with your target retirement age set by your employer. And for Mark, the target retirement age was set at 60. He didn't change this target retirement age, neither did he change the default investment plan. You may be aiming to retire at your employer's target retirement age that they have set for you, or you might not. And the reason that this target retirement age is important in Mark's case is because all of the investment decisions made on his behalf in the default were working backwards from that target retirement date, from that target retirement age. For Mark, this meant that until 25 years prior to his target retirement age, his money was invested in the 100% equity fund. From 25 years before his target retirement age, his money was gradually moved over into the diversified growth fund. And then from 5 years prior to the target retirement age, his money was moved over into the cash fund. As a result, when Mark turned 60, his pension was invested 70% in the diversified growth fund and 30% in the cash fund. Now, of course, bearing in mind that because Mark joined this company 14 years prior to his target retirement age, the mix of his investments were set in accordance with this graph working 14 years back from that target retirement age. So in effect, for Mark, his investments were never solely invested in the 100% equity fund. How has Mark's pension performed over the past 5 years? As we have seen from this default plan, at the point that Mark retired, his money was invested 70% in the diversified growth and 30% in the LifeSight cash fund. The LifeSight Diversified Growth Fund has grown on average by 4.59% over the past 5 years, and the cash fund has grown by 2.15%. Over the same time period. This has resulted in Mark's pension being valued at circa $225,000 5 years later. I've given the rough figure because clearly this will vary from day to day, from month to month. Now, if instead Mark had opted out of that lifestyling default at the point he retired and instead had moved his investments into the 100% equity fund, 5 years later, he would now have over £320,000. He'd have, give or take, just short of £100,000 more 5 years later. This is because the performance of the 100% equity fund has been 11.23% over the same 5-year period. Now, of course, the level of volatility has been much higher with the 100% equity fund. It dropped by 9.5% in 2021, whereas in 2024 it's grown by over 26%. This illustrates the long-term nature of investing, and taking this particular 5-year period, how much better off Mark would have been if he had moved his money out of the mix that the default had taken him to and into the 100% equity instead. He would be much better off by now. The right decision for you. Maybe you are one of the minority of people that's planning to use the entirety of your pension fund to buy an annuity when you retire, or maybe you want to use part of your pension to buy an annuity, in which case it might make sense for you to be in the lifestyling default. Bear in mind that whilst lifestyling can protect you against some of the volatility in the run-up to your retirement date, but you also lose out on growth during the accumulation phase itself, and the exact lifestyling strategy varies by provider, and it can vary quite a lot. The example I've gone through here is specific to this particular provider, but both the default lifestyling strategy as well as the funds used may be very different for your pension platform provider. Yours might not have the gradual phasing that WTW uses, and perhaps it might stay in relatively high risk, say until 2 years before you retire, before moving everything into a lower risk mix. I focused here on the impact that lifestyling has had on Mark since he retired and has left his pension pot untouched. He personally missed the opportunity to make changes in the run-up to his retirement while he was still contributing. If you are in that situation where you are still working and paying into your workplace pension, you still have the chance to look at your investments and move out of the default if appropriate. Now, Mark has now decided that since the change to inheritance tax treatment of this pension fund, that he is going to crystallise it start taking an income from it. He now has the plan to give as much money as possible to his son while he's still alive and hoping to live for more than 7 years. And upon crystallization, he's now moved the entirety of his investments into 100% equity. Mark understands that this will increase the volatility of his investments, but he has a high capacity for loss because, as we know, in his case, his other sources of income are sufficient to give him the lifestyle he wants anyway. So he's happy with taking the increased risk on his investments with the hope that it will grow more, but also understanding that it will also be more volatile. He tells me that he wished he had paid more attention to his workplace pension sooner, but he's glad that he's made this decision now. And he really feels that moving to 100% equity is right for him. It may not be right for you, but whatever decisions you make, if you are in the default, make sure that you are making the conscious decision to stay in that default. Take control of your own pension planning to ensure that the investments align with your goals. Thanks for watching. There's a link in the description if you'd like to book a free call with me. Thanks to all existing subscribers. If you're not a subscriber, I really appreciate if you take a second to click that subscribe button. The algorithm will show you my videos irrespective of whether you click the subscribe button, but it really helps me out if you do. Thank you for watching. Until next time, hwyl fawr am y tro.